The day Bai Yu Guang died in a car accident. Her boyfriend of many years jumped from the 18th floor. I opened his diary. Every page was filled with Sophia's name. A friend said, "Lucas has loved Sophia for more than 10 years. She is his only faith." I opened my eyes. I found that both my boyfriend and I had returned to the age of 18. He immediately let go of my hand. Without looking back, he ran towards his first love. When we met again, he was already a popular actor in the entertainment industry. His marriage to Sophia was also about to be finalized. When he saw me rushing into the ceremony looking for someone, he couldn't help but ask me, "You like me that much?" "Even if you wait for me for 7 more years, I will only love Sophia." I ignored him and walked straight to the corner to the rebellious prince of the Beijing circle. Tears were in his eyes. His voice was low and full of despair. "Olivia, do you not want me anymore? You once said you would love me forever." I saw Lucas again at the awards ceremony in New York. He was standing in the middle of the crowd, with Sophia in his arms. He was wearing a custom-made suit. He looked even more handsome than before. You could no longer see the boy from those days. Reporters surrounded them. They all had microphones in their hands. Someone said, "Lucas' new film is fantastic. He won the Best Actor award again. His future is certainly bright. I heard that you and Sophia have set a date for your wedding. Can you tell us the exact date?" Sophia leaned on Lucas' shoulder. She said happily, "We're getting married next month. I hope everyone will pay close attention." The reporters snapped their cameras again. Suddenly, someone asked, "Lucas, you've been in love for 7 years. Why did you decide to get married now? This question really intrigues me. In your previous life, Lucas risked his life for Sophia. After being reborn in this life, he broke up with me without saying a word. I thought they would get married soon. Who knew they were still single?" Lucas's expression froze slightly when he heard this question, but he soon smiled tenderly. He said, "I plan to make achievements at work first. I want to give Sophia the best life." He looked at Sophia. His eyes were full of love. When we were together before, I confessed my love to him many times. But then his family exerted pressure. And Lucas reluctantly agreed to go out with me. Now I think about it, the difference between love and no love is really huge. I was just about to leave when I suddenly caught sight of a small figure in the corner of my eye. Without thinking, I hurried over to it. At that moment, there was a click. The camera had fallen to the ground. The reporter looked at me angrily. "Where did you come from all of a sudden? Why don't you watch where you're going when you walk?" When he shouted this, everyone looked over. Lucas saw me and looked surprised. "Olivia, why are you here?" I apologized to the reporter and briefly explained the situation. "I came here to find someone," the reporter asked Lucas. "Does Lucas know this lady?" Lucas tightened his grip on the wine glass slightly. His eyes also became cold. "Well, she was my ex-girlfriend." Someone interjected suddenly. "So you were together for 7 years, not each other's first love." Sophia's smile disappeared. She took Lucas's arm. Calmly, she said, "When you're young, you're bound to do impulsive things. Who hasn't made a few wrong turns?" Lucas didn't say anything. His gaze shifted away from me. He looked at the reporter. "I'll bear the loss. Let her go." He stood there. His face was calm. His gaze lingered on me for a moment before it moved away. It was obvious. He wanted to be in front of Sophia. He wanted to completely sever all ties with me. The staff came over immediately and pushed me. Luckily, Lucas was generous. He helped you clean up your mess. "This kind of good deed will not happen again." He gave a disgusted look at my crumpled nightgown. His tone was cold. "This is not the place for you. Leave immediately." I broke free from his control. I patiently explained. "I'll leave as soon as I find the person I'm looking for. I won't be here long." The staff member sneered. "I've seen many people trying to use celebrities to get famous. You're not even supposed to be here at an event like this. If you don't leave, I'll call someone." "Stop." Lucas's voice came coldly. He walked over with graceful steps. He gave me a cold glance. His tone of voice seemed distant. "Let me talk to her for a bit." Sophia took his arm. She looked confident. "Olivia, Lucas and I are getting married soon. You'd better understand the situation." Quit while you can. Lucas frowned. His tone was cold. Don't be stubborn, even if it takes 7 years. I won't change my mind. Being with you was a mistake. Now you have a chance to start over. I hope you can see reality. Sophia stood on high ground. She looked at me with disdain. A hint of ridicule curled the corner of her mouth. You had to go after Lucas. I understand. He's the hottest actor around right now. Who wouldn't want to ride his coattails to fame? She saw that my clothes were untidy. That made her even more smug. Someone who graduated from a prestigious university ended up like this. It's tragic. If it were me, I wouldn't even have the face to come to a place like this. Lucas frowned. He took out his phone. His tone was a little impatient. If you think I owe you from our breakup, I can pay you back now. Is 5 million enough? His fingers flicked across the screen. Then he suddenly stopped. You actually blocked me. I looked at him in disbelief. I couldn't understand why he was so angry. After a breakup, it's not unusual to stop contacting each other. Besides, if the jealous woman at home found out that I still had the contact details of my ex, she would definitely make a scene. Didn't you say yourself not to contact each other after a breakup? Lucas looked unhappy. He swallowed his words. I said indifferently, forget about the money after one setback after another. Lucas's face grew increasingly worse. I said coldly, don't pretend. What's so noble about you? If it weren't for the way you look now, I wouldn't even want to talk. Sophia gently stroked his arm. Honey, you're too kind. The kind of woman who only cares about money. She doesn't need any pity, she said with disdain, as if she had forgotten that 7 years ago she was in an even worse situation. In her previous life, Lucas' family opposed his relationship with Sophia. It was because she had risen to power through unscrupulous means. She had a bad reputation. When I first met Lucas, he had just bailed Sophia out of her agency. His family was pressuring him to break up. At his lowest point, I stayed by his side and helped him through the hard times. He loved acting. So I spent all the money I had saved for starting a business on his acting classes, no matter the cold or the heat. I was always there with him in the practice room. I just wanted him to rediscover his love for acting. Who would have thought that in the end it was he who confessed to me first? I knew about his past with Sophia, and I had seen the way he looked at old photos in secret. So when Lucas confessed, I asked him seriously, Sophia, have you let go of her? He hugged me tightly at the time and said firmly, let bygones be bygones. I just want to be with someone who treats me sincerely. Olivia, I love you. Let's start a new life together. We had been in a relationship for 7 years. Even his agent found it incredible. He liked Sophia so much. I didn't think you two could last this long, but no one knew. Lucas kept making excuses to refuse my marriage proposal. Olivia, I think it's too early to get married. Can't we just fall in love first later? His family kept pressuring him to get married. He really had no choice. He agreed to get married on the day of the wedding. I heard that Sophia had been in a car accident. He jumped straight from a high building. Only a diary was left behind. The diary was full of deep confessions to Sophia. He didn't give me any explanation. In the last few lines, he wrote in blood, Sophia, I only want to marry you in this life. Now I'll be with you. At that moment, my feelings for him completely disappeared. After he was reborn, he wanted to break up. I didn't try to stop him. I knew if I couldn't keep him. I couldn't keep him. When I saw that they were as good as ever, I deleted all contact information, thinking that I would never see them again in this life. But who knows what fate has in store? Here we are again. I wanted to leave. But Sophia wouldn't let me go. She had to embarrass me in public. You really went to great lengths to please Lucas. Look at you. I'm afraid you won't even be able to find a decent job. Tell you what, I'll introduce you to the film crew as a stunt double. Good work. You can earn tens of thousands of dollars a month. Someone next to me quickly chimed in, trying to please her. You're very lucky to be able to join Lucas' film crew. Say thank you to Sophia. I was surrounded by everyone. I couldn't get away, so I said with resignation, thank you. I already have a job. It's jewelry design. When Lucas heard this, he immediately turned to look at me. A complex emotion flashed in his eyes. He kept his lips tightly shut. He turned his head away. His tone was cold and distant. You can't make money designing jewelry. Don't make a hobby your career. For the sake of our shared profession, I'll have my assistant find you a stable job. I understand. He misunderstood what I meant. I like jewelry design. Not because I still have feelings for him. When I first saw that diary, I let go of the past. After being reborn, I discovered that all my savings had been invested in the design studio. The auction would lose money, so I simply continued to run it myself. I never thought I would have such a deep connection with gems in this life. I'll live for myself. I don't need to please anyone anymore. I politely declined Lucas's proposal. My words were calm, but there was a sense of distance. I make enough money now, don't worry about it. Seeing that I didn't accept his kindness, Lucas's face slowly turned cold. His tone carried suppressed anger. The opportunity is right in front of you. If you don't seize it, don't blame me for not saving your face in the future. I didn't say anything, and I didn't tell him. Now, the work I have designed has already made several international brands hire me as the lead designer. Just from copyright income, it's about the same as the fees those top stars earn. But I feel, these things sound to him, he may think I'm daydreaming. My crumpled tuxedo, it really doesn't look good. It's all the daughter's fault, playing hide and seek backstage. She disappeared in a flash. I didn't even have time to touch up my makeup. I quickly chased after her. I was wondering how to leave. Then the assistant suddenly discovered something precious. She pointed at my dress, with disdain on her face. She said, "Chanel Haute Couture. Where did you get this dress? Did you take it from the artist's dressing room?" I frowned slightly. Couldn't I have bought this dress myself? Sophia sneered. Her voice was shrill and harsh. "You, stop daydreaming. People of status don't walk around backstage casually dressed like you," she said. Covering her nose deliberately, so sloppy. "I guess you just put it on after stealing it." Lucas looked at me, frowning. "Olivia, you're like this now." Why try to save face? I didn't want to waste any more time arguing with them. I said directly to the assistant, "If you think I'm a thief, then call the police." I understand that she is trying to please Sophia. That's why she is targeting me. Sure enough, her momentum weakened all of a sudden, she whispered. "If it weren't for the VIP guests today, I'm afraid it will affect the awards ceremony. I would have called the police long ago." Sophia's eyes lit up. She immediately picked up the conversation. "It's the young master of the Anderson family, right? I heard that he is here to present the Best Actor award this time." Lucas nodded lightly. His eyes were filled with hope. If we can get the Anderson family's investment, the production level of the new play will be taken to the next level. The words Anderson family prince were like a bombshell. It immediately triggered a lively discussion backstage. We came to the awards ceremony just to see Ethan. He is the biggest investor in this industry. I heard that he got married just after turning 20. His career has also taken off, but I don't know whose daughter he married. Everyone is talking excitedly. The person in charge of the ceremony rushed in. He was followed by a group of staff members. He asked, "Has anyone seen a little girl around 5 years old?" About this tall, the person in charge was busy wiping sweat. He looked around anxiously. Someone was very clever. As soon as they saw the situation, they understood the point. Could it be the little princess from the Anderson family? I heard she is exactly 5 years old this year. The entertainers present immediately perked up. They all started to help find the person. After all, whoever finds the person has the chance to get close to the Anderson family. Lucas and Sophia also joined the search party. They forgot about me for the time being. I looked at the messy backstage area and headed straight for the dressing room, as expected. I found my daughter with her face covered in foundation under the dressing table. I held out my hand with a stern face. "Come out." My daughter was startled and clung to the table leg. "Don't do this." I was about to pull her out. Sophia suddenly appeared, standing in front of me, putting on a serious face. "Olivia, what exactly do you want, even if you want to climb up the ladder?" You can't lay your hands on children. Lucas heard the sound and rushed over, his eyes full of disappointment. He said, Olivia, I really didn't expect it. For you to climb up the ladder, you would actually do such a thing. The assistant said to the person in charge. It's her. She broke into the backstage area and stole the artist's clothes. The person in charge turned pale. He immediately called the security guard. Hurry up and take this thief to the security office. If you wake up the little princess, you're all ready to pack up and leave. Sophia's eyes flashed with a calculating look. She crouched down and smiled gently at Emily. My dear, come to your big sister. Your sister will take care of you. Emily, however, was not at all grateful. To everyone's surprise, she gently took my hand. Mom, I'm sorry. I pinched her little ear lightly. My tone was serious. You seem to have completely forgotten what the doctor said. You haven't fully recovered from the last fall. And you're running around everywhere. Seeing Emily grimace in pain, Sophia immediately stepped forward to scold me. It's normal for children to be active. Why are you so strict? I give her a look, a cold one. A mother, it's her job to keep an eye on her kids. Sophia then notices the way Emily is addressing me. She freezes. Her eyes dart back and forth between me and Emily. I let go of her hand. Emily immediately clings to me like a little koala. She coos. Mommy, I just want to go and look at the backstage scenery. I won't fall over again. She's covered in dust and dirt and it's all over my clothes. I impatiently pushed away this clingy little one. I said in a harsh tone, when your father comes back and knows about this, you will definitely get a lecture. The other day, Emily fell during stage rehearsal. Her knee was scraped and bruised. Every time she gets hurt, Ethan feels especially distressed. But he can't resist his daughter's coquetry. He has to pretend not to see it. This time, he came to attend the awards ceremony. Ethan was suddenly called away by the company. I kept a close eye on her. I never imagined she would sneak off to play in the backstage. Seeing my bad expression, Emily immediately ran over and hugged my leg. Mom, I will be good from now on. The person in charge next to her was so nervous that her forehead was sweating. She spoke softly. You are Ethan's wife. I'm so sorry. I didn't recognize you just now. I nodded. Yes, he quickly wiped away the sweat and put on a smile. We really are blind. Why don't you and the little princess go to the lounge to freshen up? I was about to follow him. But then I looked down and saw that my clothes were covered in dust. Suddenly, I felt someone tug at the hem of my shirt. I turned around. It was Lucas. He opened his mouth. He stuttered for a while, then he managed to say, You're married, and you have a child. I gently tugged on the hem of my dress. I nodded calmly. We got married right after university. Ethan and I met at an antique auction. I was abroad at the time, attending an auction. We both happened to be interested in the same Ming Dynasty blue and white porcelain. It was a unique piece. Neither of us wanted to give up, so we started talking about our views on antiques. As we talked, we got together. What I didn't expect was that his family didn't look down on me because of my family background. Ethan looked at me with a smile. His gaze was firm but gentle. He said, Olivia, what I admire most about you is your talent and character. I thought Lucas's incident had made me afraid of falling in love again. But Ethan made me understand that true love is about two people working hard together. Looking back, all the pain and trouble has gradually faded. Emily was urging me from her arms. Mom, let's go find Dad quickly. I miss him so much. Lucas stubbornly stood in front of me, his eyes fixed on mine. He asked, Are you taking revenge on me? Have you forgotten that you said you would only love me forever? Is that true? Suddenly, a man spoke from behind. Then the sounds around me started one after the other. Ethan is fine. Ethan is fine. President, I looked back. Ethan was standing there somehow. He put his arm around my waist. His face was half smiling. He looked at Lucas. This is your ex. I'm afraid he's not happy again. Let's get this straight right away. We were in a relationship at university. But we broke up after less than a year. We haven't been in touch for years. Lucas heard this. His face turned pale. I thought about it for a moment. Then I added a few more words. And then, I never made any such promise. Lucas looked straight at me. He clearly understood what I was implying, that vow. It was a lifetime ago. Now we've both been reborn. We've each gone our separate ways. Of course the promise from the past doesn't count, he said. Unconvinced. We've been through so much together. How can you just so easily let go of everything and love someone else? Sophia's face turned very red. I sighed and said, "What makes you say that? Aren't you going to marry Sophia soon? Now you're asking me. Isn't that a bit unreasonable?" My words caused Lucas to look confused. He was about to speak when Sophia couldn't hold back any longer. "Lucas, stop. She married someone else long ago. She has nothing to do with you anymore. I'm the only one who's always been by your side." Sophia had just taken Lucas' arm when he violently shook her off. She looked at the red mark on her wrist. Her face flushed. Normally, Lucas would comfort her gently, but this time he didn't even look at her. Sophia stared at me angrily. Her eyes were full of jealousy and resentment. Ethan observed Lucas leisurely. His words carried a hint of ridicule. "So it's the ex-boyfriend. I was wondering who had the nerve to hit on my wife. You're obviously seeing someone, and still trying to use the same old tricks. Isn't that a bit much?" Lucas's face paled. He hurried to explain. "Wait. Listen to me." I raised my hand to interrupt his explanation. "Lucas, the past is in the past. I now have a new family. You also have a new partner. I wish you happiness in the future." This blessing hit like a thunderbolt. It stunned Lucas. He looked straight at me. Tears fell unstoppably. "Olivia, can you really say that you've forgotten everything that happened all those years ago? I remember that you used to value our relationship very much." Ethan gave a cold smile. His words were full of sarcasm. It was only a fleeting relationship that lasted a few weeks. How deep could it have been? How could it compare to the years of companionship that we have shared as a couple? I know. Lucas was talking about the 7 years we spent together in a previous life. But for Ethan, this was just nonsense. I shook my head. I didn't let Lucas finish his sentence. It wasn't that I had forgotten. I had decided to let go. To let go of the past, since we had taken different paths. The past could be left behind. "Lucas, the past can't be brought back. Why hold on to it?" I returned his words to him exactly as they were. "It's over between us." His eyes immediately reddened at those words. "I don't want to talk anymore." I was about to walk away. Ethan spoke slowly. "Who just said that my wife plagiarized the design? I'm going to expose you." The reporter kept shaking. He bowed repeatedly to apologize. "It was the people below who spread rumors. I've offended, madam. Please forgive me." He bent over. His back was hunched. He looked submissive. He was no longer the condescending man he had been. After dismissing the reporter, Ethan turned to Sophia. "I heard you want to find my wife a job. As your assistant, should I thank you for your kindness on her behalf?" He sneered. His tone was sharp. "My wife earns over 10 million in royalties from her jewelry designs every year. Unless you can offer better terms, don't even mention it." Sophia forced a smile. Unconsciously, she took a step back. "I was just talking casually." "Please don't take it seriously." Ethan glanced around. The guests in the ballroom all bowed their heads. Those who had just laughed at me now dared not even breathe loudly, for fear of attracting his attention. After Ethan had finished, he turned to look at me. His eyes full of affection. I understood. He was backing me up. I held Emily in one arm and gently took his arm in the other and said tenderly, "It's good to have you with me. I'm not sad anymore." Lucas tried to join in the conversation, but Ethan gave him a cold look, so he just stood there. After we went upstairs, Ethan immediately asked someone to help Emily and me fix our clothes and hair. He took out his phone. He told his assistant to buy the latest dresses and jewelry from all the major luxury brands for me. He said angrily, "These people are so snobbish. If I'm not careful, they'll dare to look down on you like this. Don't worry, my dear. In the future, you must dress up nicely when attending events. I will never let them have the chance to look down on you." I laughed and stopped him. "Tell him not to buy too much," I said. "I usually work on designs in the studio. Dressing up too much is actually inconvenient. Something simple and elegant is best. Ethan frowned. He thought about it. Then he said, "Why don't we switch to a different mode of transportation? A Porsche or a Bentley? You choose one." Seeing his anxious expression, I could see that this matter was really annoying him. Over the years, Ethan had always been very good to me. People thought that after I married into a wealthy family, I had become someone without a mind of my own. I had to do whatever he wanted, because in everyone's opinion, this kind of marriage between social classes usually made people feel oppressed. They felt unequal. But in fact, he never interfered with the decisions I made. He was also very supportive of my career. In his spare time, he always likes to take me to various jewelry exhibitions. He listens carefully to my design concepts. We are just like an ordinary, loving couple, living a simple and happy life. After seeing Lucas again today, I'm even more certain that I made the right decision. I thought that banquet was the last time I would see Lucas. Unexpectedly, at a jewelry design exhibition, I met him again. He was wearing a sharp black suit. His hair was neatly combed. He looked just like he did back in college. As soon as he saw me, he stood up to greet me. "Olivia, I knew you'd come here." He bit his lip. His eyes were full of pain and struggle. "You still think about us, don't you? You still love me, don't you?" I took a few involuntary steps back. I looked around. I realized it was the exhibition center where we used to go on dates. I was at the jewelry exhibition today for work. I never expected to run into Lucas, who was waiting for me. I sighed with a headache. I don't understand why he is so stubborn. "Lucas, let bygones be bygones. What do you really want?" "You still ask if I love you. I've said it countless times. I stopped loving you a long time ago. Why won't you face reality? Do you want me to say that I love you? Then what next? Do you want me to give up Ethan? You give up Sophia. Then we start again from the beginning." Before he could finish his sentence, Lucas hurried forward. Anxiously, he said, "We can still be like before." I stood there, staring at the man in front of me in disbelief. I thought he just couldn't get over the good old days. Seeing the little assistant, who used to follow him around, no longer hanging around, made him feel bad. I never thought he would ask for this. I subconsciously took a step back. My voice also turned cold. "You've gone crazy. In your previous life, you followed Sophia away. This life, you finally got to be with her, and now you want to give up." "Olivia, I was wrong." Lucas's eyes were filled with pain. His voice was low. "Yes, as soon as I was reborn, I went to find Sophia. But then I realized my feelings for her are less than 1,000th of what I feel for you. She tried to go public with our relationship several times. I always found excuses to refuse. My mind kept thinking about the photo project for our unfinished trip. I interrupted. "Didn't you say you had to marry Sophia in this life?" I was so impulsive. Lucas said emotionally, "If I could choose again, I definitely wouldn't do that. Give me another chance. I will use the rest of my life to make it up to you. This time, I promise, you will be the most important person to me." Hearing these words, I couldn't help but smile. "Start over. God has given you a second chance. You have already made a choice. Lucas, as an adult, you must take responsibility for your own choices," I said, staring him in the eye. "My life is pretty good now. I'm very satisfied. After leaving you, I met Ethan and found the life I really want. This makes me very happy." He shot back defiantly. "Our 7 years of relationship can just disappear so easily. I know you better than Ethan. Why must you choose him? Is that so?" I asked with a smile. "Then you tell me. What style of jewelry do I like designing the most? Which gemstones do I know best? Which materials do I use the most? What is my best design theme?" Each question was like a hammer. It shattered Lucas's last holdout. "You say you love me, but do you know me? Those 7 years, I gave up my dreams and pursuits just to support your career. You only love the shadow that obeys you." I picked up the design draft and whispered, "Today I have learned to live for myself. Ethan likes a complete and independent soul." Since then, I have never seen Lucas again. Ethan often talks about this incident, as if he is particularly concerned about this ex. He is particularly jealous. After I told him what happened in the park that day, It took a lot of effort to calm him down. Not long after that, news spread in the industry that Lucas's studio was on the verge of collapse. It turned out that Sophia had become addicted to drugs behind his back. She was a third-rate celebrity who had become famous by hanging around with rich people. Her bad nature had never changed, with Lucas looking after her. She became even more unrestrained. Lucas obeyed her every word. He even handed over the financial management of the studio to this person who knew nothing about the industry. This delegation of power caused a lot of trouble. Some people in the industry had long known that she took drugs. They deliberately set a trap. They let the media catch her taking drugs. That day, after arguing with me, she angrily went to the drug dealer to buy drugs. After the drugs took effect, she spent a lot of money in order to prevent Lucas from finding out. She used the studio's money to continue buying drugs. Drugs are a bottomless pit. Not only did she not quit her addiction, she had spent all the money in the studio. By the time Lucas noticed the problem with the accounts, it was too late. Since they were married, they had to pay off the debts together. Ethan and I were at the awards ceremony together. I heard people next to us discussing it. Lucas is so unlucky. He finally became a top star. But this woman ruined his career. I heard that woman has become addicted to drugs. When she has a fit, she loses control and beats people up. The last time I saw Lucas, his neck was covered in scratches. His face was swollen. Ethan frowned when he heard this. Although he didn't like Lucas, he was still a colleague. Seeing him like that, he couldn't bear to. "Why don't I find a lawyer to help him with the divorce?" He turned back to me and asked. I nodded. I sighed silently. He had finally started over, but it ended like this. Lucas must be regretting it now. Sophia relapsed. She had a fight with Lucas and was admitted to the hospital. Later, Lucas' lawyer helped him get a divorce. Sophia was sentenced for assault and drug abuse. She quit the entertainment industry. Lucas wanted to see me after he was discharged from the hospital. Ethan was unhappy when he found out. My team of lawyers helped him win the lawsuit. Why is he still thinking about you? Therefore, when Lucas walked into the waiting room, Ethan's face looked very unfriendly. I've already taken care of the divorce. You have to deal with the debt yourself. Lucas looked dejected. After a long while, he spoke to Ethan. Thank you for your help. I was wrong before. I will pay attention to keep a distance from Olivia. I will not mention getting back together again. He closed his eyes. Finally, he said this sentence. She only has you in her heart now. I froze for a moment. I didn't expect that after this storm. He could still be so aware of this. Letting go of obsession, it's good for you. Lucas gave a bitter smile. His face was still bruised. He looked particularly exhausted. His original noble temperament unique to an actor had been worn down by life. He looked particularly exhausted now. The world is always so ironic. When you have it, you don't know how to cherish it. You only regret it when it's all gone. It seems like I've always been chasing after dreams that are out of reach. Before it was Sophia. Now it's you. At this moment, I finally understand. As long as one of us can achieve true happiness, everything will be worth it. He finished and left. His back looked a little lonely, that once flourishing actor. Now he is just an ordinary person trapped in love. Ethan glanced at me. His tone was flat as he said, "Aren't you going to see him off?" I wrapped my arms around his strong arm. I smiled and said, "I understand. We must cherish the people around us."